Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Dualistic Unity, episode 31 of season 6. Wow. All right. Well, and we are joined today by Amanda. If you haven't been listening to the Raw episodes lately, Amanda has recently moved out here to the island. Andrew is out here on the island, and we are now broadcasting together very frequently. So this is going to be a lot of fun. This episode is being filmed live. So if you have any questions, we would love to hear them. If you're in the comment section, please do participate. Specifically, we're going to be, revolving around the topic that the God or Allah, whatever you'd like to call it, universe, source, consciousness, whatever you might name it, isn't the thing that you would like it to be. And it's just because as soon as you put it into a box, as soon as you have an idea about it, that's no longer it. Because what you're talking about is reality itself, which is infinitely complex and beyond any conceptualization outside of for our own convenience. And that is the topic that we're going to get into today. And for anyone who's listening after the fact, we actually have this in the lower third of the screen of this broadcast for anybody who might tune in. We are hoping to have some people engage in conversation about this incredibly interesting conversation.
Indeed. Yeah. Having the topic on there. We don't usually have topics on these episodes either. So this will be fun. So if anyone has any thoughts, feel free to throw them in the comment section. But yeah, I mean, that idea, it's like it feels comfortable to maintain that idea or some idea that there's something else out there, something to look to. And, we see it in varied ways throughout our lives. It's not just like a God figure, but it's someone to look to. And it's like, as soon as you look to something like that, there's like power is given to that thing. Right? It's equally as comfortable as it feels. It's also equally as disempowering. And so if you're looking to anyone to support you or like get a nod of validation or pat on the back or like, oh yeah, that's the right thing to be doing. It's like, that's based on individuals, that right way. And so the idea of God is not really any different than that. And it's just another idea that feels comfortable and it's just as disempowering, but it's a story.
Now, is that to say that there's no God?
Well, this opens up a whole nother can of worms now, if that's always the case. And, if those perspectives are always shifting and changing, then like goes for our idea of ourselves too. And, you start digging into that.
Mm-hmm. And the gods we've worshipped have changed. We used to worship multiple gods at once, and that was not considered weird at all. And now we worship one, or we tend to.
Mm-hmm.
We tend to have our name for our favorite god, and we're his favorite people. And there's a lot of favoritism going on, and certainly. But that's changed. We've changed gods. We've changed religions. It hasn't always been this one constant. That was enough to give me like some wiggle room as I was learning about Catholicism and then Jehovah's Witness and learning and practicing those. It was like, well, I'm not entirely sure that this is the only choice, because it isn't. But I don't have to create this identity that's now attached to this belief. But that's how I was raised. And so that it makes so much sense, because it was so comforting to think, oh, well, we've got it figured out. I know the right path. I know the right God to follow. And I have that certainty, and I have that comfort that comes with it. But it just doesn't seem like it's really sitting on a solid foundation. It just feels like I'm assuming a lot in these beliefs.
Well, and I think that's the thing is I've had so many conversations with religious people, different religions, and admittedly, sometimes people consider certain practices or even conversations to be religions when they're not. And specifically there, I'm talking about the Hindu, quote unquote, religion. which is really quite different in a number of ways, because there's just so many facets to it that it's very much just kind of a practice in seeking rather than a hope of finding.
Okay.
Which is very cool, which is why you'll never really run across somebody who is Hindu who's trying to convert you into Hinduism. Like, they don't
I
care.
appreciate that.
To them, you are
Exploring
just
themselves.
another aspect of Brahman. You are just another seeker on the path. You're taking a different path, but it's the same thing, right? And so that's very cool. And then, like, Buddhism, also not really a religion if you understand Buddhism, because Buddhism is really about self-reflection. So it's a religion of one, which is very cool.
Yeah.
And then Taoism itself is just a practice as well. Taoism is just recognizing the duality of all things, the harmony and balance in all things, and not interfering with it. So those aren't necessarily religions as they are just practices in addressing reality. But then we have monotheism. Now, monotheism is intriguing to me because it really is a communication of an experience of the universe just being whole and vast, but there also being an intelligence behind it. And that's what I think is really fascinating, is that when you get down to the idea of God, you're talking about an intelligence. That is ultimately the crux of the entire point, that there might be a God. Is there some rhyme and reason behind this? Is
divine
there
intelligence,
something actually pulling the strings? Because, that seemed really coincidental, and then that seemed really coincidental. My computer's doing a buzzing noise. The point being is that you start to look at it after a while and you start to go, feels like there's something talking to me, right? And if you have no awareness that it's you, it really can become this sense that something is watching you. And there's actually a part of the brain which is fascinating. They were doing this in Laurentian University, I think, out in Sudbury, Ontario. They were stimulating a part of the brain that's back here. It's underneath the ear towards the back of the skull. When stimulated, people immediately started to feel a presence in the room, that there was a presence with them, that there is actually a part of the brain that almost inspires that sense of belief.
Holy shit. And it's like ours has been kind of shut down a little bit.
Maybe it's something that we activate through thought. Maybe it's something that activates through stress, right? Because when did religion get founded? In a time of incredible stress.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Because then it's like, if the thoughts or something that trigger it, or thinking about someone is able to trigger that, then no wonder we're can be so addicted to thinking about stuff, because it actually could be that there's a chemical response to us feeling like that person is here, even though it's just a conceptual thing. Because it's like our brain, everything that we're taking in is relatively conceptual in the way that we're describing it, because otherwise it just is what it is, and that may not elicit the same sort of responses. And it's like a different response possibly is like, not thinking about certain things, but like feeling the room that you're in, like feeling the seat under your ass, or like just the underlying noises in the room. Like, that is a different experience than being, caught in your head and your mind and focused on that entirely. Like, it's a total shift. And so, when religion back to religion, when a lot of that was going on, was like, there was a draw to like recluse into thought, into your mind. And then there's like trying to make sense of that, or like live there and not feel weird about it. It's like you gotta believe in something else doing it.
I'm fascinated by the fact that, like, when you take Christianity, for example, Christianity arose during the Roman occupation. A lot of stress happening, a lot of fear, a lot of worry, and despite all that, just the message of like, no, like there's something else going on. There's something else going on. In fact, there's there's a universe out there. There's an intelligence that loves you. You know, everything's going to be okay. And that was the message.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a beautiful message, except for the underlying temptation to go, well, I just need to abdicate responsibility. Right. And that's all I need to do is just look towards this intelligence that is taking care of all of us rather than being reflected through us. I find this to be so fascinating because it really changes how we look at things. Because when you think of it as, okay, there's a God and it's out there and we're kind of all like puppets or possibly just forgotten children. Right. There's a different perspective there. Whereas if you go, okay, but what do we mean by God? Like if God is never what we think it is, that means that it cannot be limited to whatever convenient story makes me happy whatsoever. I can't just go, God is this. It's all loving, and therefore it's going to take care of me as long as I'm loving, because all of that's just a limitation. Based on my own preferences, based on how I want to see myself and the world. This is why everybody's like, no, God has morals. Why would God have morals? God never dies. There's nothing that can hurt it, ever.
Right.
All of our morality, quote unquote, is based on things that we view as destructive, things that we're afraid of, things that affect us as mortal beings. Why the fuck would God give a shit? God wouldn't give a shit.
No.
Right? But
we wouldn't be emotionally invested. Like he wouldn't, like that just seems absurd. And like being all loving, he lovingly sends you to hell.
For disobeying him once.
You broke one of his rules and you didn't say enough Hail Marys at the end, man. You didn't. Oh my goodness. It's just so conditional, so transactional. And there's no way that this omnipresent, all-powerful God would also be emotional in the same way that humans are. But that's the same way that we used to describe the Roman gods and the Greek gods. They were full of jealousy and rage and insecurities. I was like this. So they just sounded like humans with superpowers that couldn't die.
Kind of basically how we want to view celebrities.
There's a different Mount Olympus. It's Mount Hollywood.
Which is still Mount Olympus.
Is it?
That is the mountain in Hollywood that's above Hollywood Boulevard.
Is it
called
really?
Mount Olympus.
That's hilarious.
With some of those neighborhoods in them, so
that's
funny.
Someone lives on Athens Avenue. I'm kidding.
So if we can't limit it, though, if we can't go, God is this, then we're left with God is what is. And then you have to look at intelligence a little bit differently, because if God is what is, then that's everything, including us. And then now you're, instead of looking at it as, this creator created relationship or this, father son relationship, you're looking at it as, the relationship between the body and the cells. Which is a very different kind of relationship. That's an incredibly different relationship. Now you're not going, what does God want me to do? Because the cells in your body aren't doing, what does my master want? Because they don't look at you that way. They just don't.
They're doing it regardless.
No,
So they're reflecting your intelligence. They're not even your intelligence. They're reflecting intelligence in the same way that you are. So that changes everything, doesn't it? Now, all of a sudden, believing in God is not actually helping you be the reality of it. It's taking you away from it. You're looking outside yourself, like, show me the way. Meanwhile, the universe is going, you are the way.
Exactly.
It's you.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, the cell body one really shifts the perspective with the conversation of God too, and like looking to anything. The thought that a cell could be better directed even by another cell. It's looking at the cell in your finger, looking at the cell in your, heart, like, oh, I should be more like that. It's like, that's not going to do you any good. That's not going to help you at all. That's going to get tougher and tougher. And it's like, the more you look around other things, as comfortable as it may seem, it's like that can be it is incredibly destructive to yourself, because you can't, it's like, and there's so much of the social societal conditioning that goes into perspectives or cells, and like all cells trying to look the same or be the same, despite like each one being unique, obviously unique little snowflakes. But it is like that is the case no matter what your family, friends, like distant relative, like everyone is, as much as there can be similarities in like genetics and whatnot, like in terms of personality and how you are, like outside of the conditioning that you go through similar types of conditioning as similar types of people. Outside of that, it's like there isn't anything inherent to like guide you through that. It's just fitting in is trying to be that thing that's most like everyone else. And it's like you get into new environments and immediately the first thought is like, how do I adapt to this environment like you did in a previous one, instead of just making it more yours. So
I want to address a comment here. This is important. We're a wave and God's the ocean. And the problem there is that there's that idea of yourself, again, being the small part of a bigger thing, right? When that's not the case. It's the whole thing in the small part, in the same way it's the whole intelligence within the cell. And here's the evidence of that. If you were to get rid of all of the cells, except for one, what does it do? It splits into two daughter cells. It splits into its children. It's still the parent. Right? The cells split into two other parts. Right. It's not like it needs another part to start creating more cells. It is the origin of its own genealogy.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not like it.
First cell is the last cell.
Nice.
Oh, the last man standing.
Yeah, it's the first man standing. It's the first man.
Yeah. And so that's just like breathing. The swells, the build and the crash, the crest and the crash. Like, because from that, it's not like it's because you need something else to, another organism to have another organism typically. And so it's not just a single one having two, it's just one left. And it actually kind of reminds me of Star Wars Episode 1 with Anakin's birth.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, I don't know if there's more to that, but it seemed like possibly virgin birth.
Well, that's exactly what they're kind of implying.
Right? Yeah. And the beginning of a new type of thing.
But that's not uncommon in nature. I mean, there's a lot of asexual creatures out there that don't need to reproduce via the duality of two different genders. That evolution itself is kind of cool. If you think about it. All of a sudden, it's like all of our cells, which are still splitting, which are still doing their thing, make something so complex that there has to be another cell that kind of can replicate and do its own thing in a way that now we come together.
That's right.
As a single cell to make another thing that spawns its own replicating cell. It's very cool life. Like just the fact that all of this and again, there's that question of intelligence. Like your DNA and your RNA knows when you should start growing pubic hair. It knows when you should start growing certain types of teeth. Like there are things that your body knows, and you could go, well, that's natural selection. What's naturally selecting? Like everything's going through this process of change, and there's intelligence in there, right? In the same way. So you're looking at this process of replicating cells that get into such vast, complex organisms that now we look at it as the evolution of species instead of the evolution of cells. Right. We get caught up in the division once again. So if you break all of this down, if you stop looking at the divisions between you and the cat and a plant, and you start looking at the commonality, which is will being reflected in whatever the form is, just as it is in every cell. Is there an underlying intelligence to this? And there's the question, is that actually there's two questions. Is there an underlying intelligence to reality itself? And if so, does it give a fuck where it's going? Or is it enough to just be intelligence forever?
Isn't it going in all directions? Like, isn't it just always always dividing? If it was always dividing, we're talking about all cells in all, like on all levels. in every kind of species, in every kind of plant, every kind of animal, every kind of fungus, everything. If we're talking about just division of just cells at the core, like that's always going to be happening in every single direction, in every combination. So why would you give a fuck about going in infinite directions? If there was an intelligence, it certainly wouldn't.
To try and feel better.
It wouldn't have a preference.
It wants to feel better when it's going through certain things. And that's why when someone's, struggling, suffering, it's like, that's when they maybe start praying and looking to something else and trying to like somehow gain some control over the situation instead of, because like how often do people pray when they are feeling great and feeling good? How often do they look to God? And a lot of times they will, just saying like giving thanks because they feel like they then have to, because they can't, take in that maybe it is just them having their experience. But again, it's like wanting to take ownership, but also not. Like you got to pass off some of the responsibility in order to, feel like you're doing something separate from that, from that flow, despite even when you think you are in control or maintaining control, like that's still, the flow happening one way or another. And so you really can't escape it, because we're always having that impact and influence. It's just like, what kind of experience are you having? And like, how much are you passing off to look into something else, or like not fully experiencing the situation that you're in?
So now that begs the question again, talking about this intelligence, because we're trying to understand it, right?
Yeah.
Is that intelligence experiencing its through time? Like, is it actually looking at itself from start to finish? This is where I want to go. Or is it only ever reflected now through each of the points that are experiencing itself?
It would be just now. Yeah. Like it wouldn't be able to look where to go. Know where to go.
Right? Because to it, and that's the point. Now, if it doesn't exist in time, if it only exists now, does that include all nows? Because eternity is forever, which means every variation of anything that could happen in every body, in every environment, will exist over time. So is it always just existing in those infinite nows, which are always here?
I don't, honestly, I'm like, when it gets into like, when you start talking about the infinite nows and like all the potential nows right now playing out, and if there isn't some actual sequence, like we're not going through situations right now, we're not going through moments right now, like
no, because we didn't just leave a moment behind.
No,
right,
like we didn't just leave the moment behind.
No, it's not linear.
Right?
No,
it's not. It's
play
not
it
some
out like
line
that.
that we're following.
Right, but 5 minutes ago, that felt like the only thing that existed. In the same way, this feels like the only thing that existed, because back then, quote unquote, that was the only thing that existed. So to the awareness of reality, that's all that ever exists, is every variation of what can. See, that's fascinating to me, because again, like it really takes away this, God wants us to prosper, like, because I think that's mostly arrogance and human, like,
for sure,
stuff. Like I think that's just like, humans, we're awesome. Well, God would want us to succeed.
We've got a great future on the horizon.
Right? Like, well, we're in God's image, right? And God loves himself, so he wants a bunch of his image out there and more images. So that's why we're doing it for God.
And it is very future focused. Heaven, like it's your reward comes later. Like it's like a lot of the religious structure, and through my experience, has been very much, you are not supposed to be reaping the benefits now. Your greatest benefit, your greatest reward is going to be coming after you're dead. I was like,
the ultimate reward for the
right. So the priority isn't life now. The priority is the afterlife. And I'm like, how does that make any sense? And then it feels like a manipulation. Like I'm only doing these good acts to follow these rules so that I don't burn in hell for an eternity. So for the most part, I didn't even feel like I was focusing on heaven. It was just avoiding hell. That was my main priority when I was growing up.
Yeah, straight up. Now that begs another question. I love this conversation about God, because again, we're going from the father, child relationship, or the creator relationship, to the relationship of a body with its cells, but it's a body in terms of it being a closed system. Like it's everything that is. Nothing can get out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So where certain cells may cease to function, they're immediately absorbed by the body and turned into other cells. And so the awareness, the intelligence that is being reflected through all these things never dies.
Mm-hmm.
Like it never dies because it was never just the individual cell. It was only just reflected through it temporarily.
Right.
So we have all this fear of death.
Mm-hmm.
We have all this concern about the afterlife.
Mm-hmm.
What if there is none?
Yeah.
It has yet to be confirmed.
Right? Like that's the thing. What if every time we have a memory of like, oh, I died and I came back, it's like that was just another now where you were alive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because what is changing, right?
What happens when I'm blackout drunk? Do I just disappear into another fucking universe?
Right?
But,
Like, are you thinking you're going to get to heaven and not be alive?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
It's like we're all just wandering around in zombie land.
Uh-huh.
Like that's the afterlife,
Yeah.
zombie land.
oh my god.
Or maybe this becomes that sort of zombie land of trying to just
Right.
like follow the rules, do the right thing to get to a spot where it's like the ultimate.
Do you think we paved heaven?
Well, of course.
Hopefully we have wings when we get to heaven.
'Cause
So
it's
we
like,
don't even
But if
need
this
roads.
is it, like, is this what we did with heaven?
Yeah, I mean,
It just
Are we
turned-
paying taxes in heaven?
Yeah, I think so. I think
the angel
you might
tax.
be
That's right.
Holy shit! Yeah, because
To ourselves.
yeah,
We're paying taxes to ourselves. This is insane.
it's brutal. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And, yeah, just that thought of like, because what if you were in heaven? Like, would it not be something then you would try to control too? But it's like each individual person's heaven can't be heaven. Period.
Right.
So it's like it's got to be maybe the other direction.
You just get virtual reality goggles in heaven, and everyone gets their own
Each
version.
individual person's heaven.
Definitely won't bump into each other.
Yeah.
But that's it. It's so funny because the more we focus on the idea of ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
the more we have the idea of God,
Mm-hmm.
and we fucking fail to see it in everyone around us.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
And
'cause
it's all just unique to
Because
our
I'm not
own
going to pray to
perspective.
you.
Yeah. No.
right.
But why don't we?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we pray to each other? Why don't we say to everyone, like, hey, is everybody else suffering in the same way we fucking are? Let's talk about this shit.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Instead of just praying to talking to yourself again,
Yeah.
like talking to yourself one way to feel better versus another, like hoping there's someone out there to hear you.
Exactly. In fact, and here's a better idea. I'm going to throw this out there because I immediately I'm like, pray to each other. Don't do that. Don't do that. But how about this? Have the courage to get out of your way enough to answer someone else's prayers, whether they are making them or not, because you know what they are in the same way you know what yours are. Just to be fucking recognized as a whole living human being. Like, just to have a moment of space where somebody's not trying to use you and manipulate you into something just so they can feel better. Just a moment of quiet so that way you can reflect and actually give your opinion. To actually answer somebody who asks you, how are you? With a legitimately authentic answer. We all want that shit.
Yeah.
We can do that for everyone all the time, but we have to do it for ourselves.
Got to take a good, honest look at ourselves for how we're doing, because it's like even the perspectives, the thoughts about yourself, or the focus on certain things, it's like try to convince ourselves that we're doing well by thinking about certain things or looking to our lives and like not actually feeling as much, like not actually feeling ourselves to the same degree, and just like constantly looking. And then it's like that's what you're seeing everything through, and there's so many veils to that, and then just trying to maintain that comfortable perspective of yourself, or something that you can believe in and indicate that you're doing a good job, instead of not needing to any indicator, not needing to look to something in your life, because then you don't have to look to anyone else either. But yeah, you got to look to yourself first and look at like, what's the quality of your life right now, and maybe there's a number of things influencing that, and then you can start to explore that, or things you're holding on to or assumptions that you're making.
Yeah. What if it is just an act of faith? What if that's what it is? What if all of this inner dialogue, all of this, like, oh yeah, I'm really holding myself back, it's just so you don't? What if that's what it is? What if that's all this comes down to, is either you're trying to be in control or you're just fucking winging it? Like, you are really just like, I don't know. I'm just gonna do it. What if it's all an act of faith? Which brings us to my favorite topic amongst all of this divine conversation. Satan. Fucking love this subject. I love this subject because Satan would rather reign in hell than rule than serve in heaven. And although not a person, is only ever described in the Bible as the adversary. The adversary to God.
Okay.
Now, if that implies, it's very vague. It's very vague, right? And again,
that's it. Just the adversary.
But this comes down again to our impression of what God is. Is it a parent child relationship? Is it a creator created relationship? Right. Like, is God up there fucking throwing down with some dude that's just as strong?
Didn't he make the dude?
Right, exactly. So that brings us back to the cell body perspective of all of this.
Okay.
If we're all the same body, if we're all the same cell, then I can go back immediately to the same collection of cells. We're all the same intelligence. I can go back to my experience.
Right.
Who's my fucking adversary? Me. It's my doubt. It's my doubt. It's my need to be in control. It's my need to identify. I'm my own adversary. So if that's true for the intelligence as a whole, then we are reflective of both that intelligence and its doubt.
Yeah.
We are the collective God and the devil.
Yeah.
We're the battlefield between heaven and hell. And the world we create is the outcome.
Right. It's just reflecting.
Yeah.
Just reflecting us.
Yeah, the collective outcome of a focus in one way or the other, because it gets rid of the aura, that perspective of like, white robes and glowy halos on the God side, and then like fiery hellstorm on the devil side. It's not even that. Like, it almost cuts down all the imagery that you get. And if it is, the conversation of God is more along the lines of cells in a body, that relationship, instead of someone to look to, someone else, it's like cells in the body are very much working together. They got to. If they don't, they are absolutely screwed. And so in that conversation, then where does the devil fit into that conversation? It's like the cell's perspective that it's not a part of the body, that it's something separate, something to look to. And with that comes like attention. It's like you could almost picture like a bunch of cells together, in a like a science movie or something, kind of moving around, and they're all seamlessly, interconnected. And then if one is like thinking it's itself, it would tense up and there would be space. And how much does that feel? How often do you feel that when you're, thinking about yourself or focused on yourself or, trying to control something or maintain something? Then like you feel very separated. And so who's to say there isn't that physical component like that conversation? But again, it's like that's the devil is just that. It's like very almost, it has a scientific vibe in that sense.
I like it. And on the flip side of that, before I pass it over to Amanda, I just want to say the alternative would be that the cell in a state of stress and fear starts to try and take over the other cells. It starts to actually act outside of its programming entirely and starts to dominate the other cells, becoming cancer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I was first learning about cancer, it was just like your body kills anywhere from like 2 to 3 cancer cells every single day. So every single day there are cells that are just going glitching. They're just going out of sorts. And it's funny because every cell has the DNA, the instructions, right? And we have no idea where these instructions came from. We have no idea how every cell has its own set of DNA sequences and coding and instructions. And it's really interesting because when that one cell is not paying attention to the other cells, its instructions are different, and it's just doing something completely unique. And it's funny because the body doesn't try to rewrite it. It just shreds it and then reabsorbs it and then starts over from scratch. So it's in that same breath that we can do that in a moment where we can just not try to change ourselves, but just start over, start fresh. If we're in the middle of doing something and we feel ourselves hitting a wall, it's just being able to like walk away and then walk back into that task or into that activity. And just because I've definitely done that where I just need to like reset. It's not that I have to change the circumstances. It's just I walk away and I refresh myself, and then I just go right back into that same situation. And it seems to just work out a lot better than if I try to be like, okay, I need to be a whole new person right now. It's just different approaches.
Absolutely. Now, see, I love scalable conversations. Like, to me, the God conversation's always been enjoyable because it's about as big picture as you can get. Like, it's super big picture. Like, you're not just talking about like the humans. You're talking about their interactions with everything. You're talking to everything right down to the mycelium in the ground. You're talking about, the planets, everything, everywhere, all of it being one giant fucking body reflecting intelligence. And so you got to look at your body and scale that out until your imagination's stretched so goddamn thin you think you're going crazy, right? And just keep going, But in that, you really start to notice like the subtle changes in things. You really start to notice, how, for example, our history as a species, if you look at what we were just talking about in terms of certain cells within our body, our history as a species is very much cells getting so out of whack that they're starting to corrupt parts of our body. But that body is not just where we are now. It's expressed through time. So we're looking at humanity right now, and we have an epidemic of not just mental health issues, but cancer. Like we have an actual health
chronic
crisis. And what is that other than the cells getting out of whack, not just individually, but collectively, based on, again, us working against the body? What if that's what we're seeing? Everybody's like, oh, it's because of my individual health choices that all of a sudden I have this cancer.
The genes and
what
my
if
family.
We're all working against cancer? Like, what if all of us are in this together? Like, that's the reason, it's like, well, why, if there's a God, why are children born with cancer? It's like, because maybe we're all collectively in this. Maybe they're being born into a cancerous world.
A high stress world that like increases the chance of cancer, increases the chance of not being able to survive treatments.
So the cells are just born, kind of fucking already stressed, coming into a conscious environment. It's not just like, oh, but they were born in a nice neighborhood, in a nice hospital with nice people. Right. It's like, but we're still all connected. Like, if it's all one body, if it's all intelligence, we don't get the luxury of saying my own individual choices are just mine.
Right. The same thing with the animals, though. If it's all connected, all cells, all the animals that are just being, factory farmed, and all the stress that they're creating, and the stress of the workers, and then just you feel the stress of the environment. Like, we are having more storms, more tornadoes, more hurricanes. Like, you can feel it. Like, there's just so much tension. And whether we're talking about expressed through plant life or expressed through the animals, including us, because we're also animals. It's fuck, man. It feels like a super tense environment.
Yeah. Ongoingly. Like, ongoingly, because you've always got to be holding that shit back. You've always got to be cropping back nature, and to the point now where we've dominated nature, right? And we're like, oh shit, maybe we should rein that back a bit, right? But we're already so lost in this habit now.
We resist the scaling back.
Absolutely. And so, I mean, like, we understand how important the Amazon is. We're still chopping it down like a motherfucker, right? And what's the argument? Well, if we didn't, the economy of these certain countries would falter. People would suffer and starve. And that is how out of whack we've become, to the point where it'd be like, well, if I stop binge eating now, I'll have a heart attack.
Yeah. But the body gets worse. When you're sick and you take medicine, usually you get worse symptoms before you get better. And that's for the people who know that, it's not a surprise when they feel themselves getting worse. Right. And the same thing would be the case for when we implement change on a larger scale. Like, of course, the economies are going to be in the shitter because we just took away their toxic profit source, you know? So of course it's going to be a little rough, but it's thinking short versus long term. Is it not worth it to have a little bit of short-term discomforts, extra short-term discomforts for long-term benefit? Or to just keep thinking we're going to keep the benefits that we have now because I'd rather suffer more later.
Exactly.
And we're just like, that's not going to be my problem. I'll probably be dead by then.
Yeah, exactly. It's like just prioritizing whatever situation we're in now and like maintaining as much comfort. And so, yeah, it's going to promote that kicking the can down the road mentality. I mean, saw it with, 2008, 2009, the crash there. It was like all the bailouts and everything was just kicking the same sort of thing down the line, assuming that that's not going to, bubble up in another situation. We do that for, and we see that reflected all the time. You get a notification that your, computer needs an update or something, and it gives you the options like, well, you can click on it or remind me in 1 day, 2 days, 5 days, or custom amount. And it's like built in to the notification that like this person's probably not going to deal with this right now. So we're going to give them options for how to deal with this down the road. And like
pass the buck 1, 2, or 3.
Yeah. How long would you like to kick this one?
Your children or your grandchildren?
Right. Is great-great-grandchildren on the list? I really want to make sure I don't see it. I really want to make sure that it's not the next 3 to 4 generations. I'll definitely be dead by the second one.
So that brings us to the state of the world. We're talking about intelligence and unity. We're talking about our ability to interfere with the body's intelligence just through stress and the need to feel control because we feel separate. Yet, because we don't look at it that way, we either spend time praying to God, right, or exercising more control. And while we're like, okay, the rainforest thing is a clear example of just figure that shit out. Like, it's time to get your head out of your ass and look at the big picture. But South America, for example, and Africa and a lot of poorer nations, for example, are still just trying to survive in a world that has been dominated by a mentality that's been in control for much longer, which in the history of this specific planet in these last 10,000 years is pretty much Eurocentric, right? And I like thinking of it that way because I think it's really important to understand that. Like, ground zero for an egocentric empire moved around the planet for a while, right? Until it settled on Rome, right? Like, it was, towards Greece, there was fucking, the Mongol Empire. Like, there was any one of these empires around the world that could have taken root like a motherfucker and become Rome. It's just that for us, in our history, it was Rome, right? That's really important to recognize. Like, that was ground zero for the ego taking root. Right. And that's what we've seen expressed. And it all spreads from there, which is why the farther you get from Rome, the more you have these underdeveloped countries, quote unquote. The farther you get from Rome, the more you get into the wilderness. Think about it.
Yeah, because Europe there is like super densely populated. And
everything around Europe too, all around the Mediterranean Sea, right? Going into Russia and whatnot. And then from there, it's on the trade route going into Asia, right? So everything followed that. That was where the empire really took hold. And then everybody else is just like, fuck, we got to make our own empires. And that's where that happened.
But it still is a mentality.
It's still a mentality. And it's the mentality that makes weapons.
Yeah. So that, the perspective, even of like, a different mentality, being driven by empathy, or, less selfishness, less like individual divided perspective. Like that wasn't necessary. It's not like a historical, it is historical, but like the spread of it hasn't been a time thing as much as it's been from that point of like where it took root as well. And so when it was like solely more, concentrated at Rome, there's probably a lot of other, areas of the world expressing something much differently at the same exact time.
Tribal society.
And then it kind of like engulfed the world, like a cell gets engulfed by perspective itself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at Britain,
Right.
look at the UK, right?
Yeah.
Like the UK was populated by entirely different people for a very long time, and then the Anglo-Saxons came in, and the Romans were there, and it's just like just one generation after another, like people who were eventually at one point tribal, like the Germanians. They weren't the Germans. They were Germanians. They were tribal.
Right.
Right. And now they're just like everyone else. But it's so fascinating because if you look at Rome and you look at how it expanded and then it shrunk and divided into little pieces, what I find fascinating is that what it really did was divide into little Romes.
Oh, like little city states.
That's exactly what happened. Now what you've got is a planet covered with little Romes at various different different times in their growth.
Right.
Isn't that fascinating? All of these empires on the same trajectory to falling.
Yep.
And pride goeth before the fall. Yeah, because there's an inevitable end to it. And it's like, we're kind of just living like, fingers crossed, it isn't during
our lifetime.
Our own lifetime, despite it, being reflected in us, like all the consequences of it, just because it's not this overarching thing. It's like, we are the product of experiencing the consequences of like, control. It's like, we're trying to maintain it as a society. We're trying to maintain it in our own lives, in our individual decisions.
The lives we don't enjoy.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to plan out your day to feel better about yourself, despite it's like, all right, now I follow that, and you relax to the degree that you can, but a lot of it can be, we can exist in very tense environments and lives just from trying to keep doing the right thing or the correct thing or the thing that's gonna cause you to be able to fit in the best, and it's the cost of your own experience. But
right, and not focusing so much on the benefits of that schedule, right? And just like, because it would just be so zoomed in on what I thought I was getting out of that pursuit of control and refusing to look at the price. Don't look at what it costs you. Your peace of mind right now. Don't worry about that. You have control. It's coming. It's about to get here. Just keep pushing, keep grasping at it, and just not looking at what it cost me right now, and that the quality of that experience, the quality of your life. And it's constantly, when speaking with someone that's religious, they'll ask, are you willing to risk, the afterlife? And it's like, I'm not willing to risk right now. That's what it boils down to. Maybe something happens in the afterlife, but I don't know that. There's no way that I can confirm that myself right now. And the price I will not pay it for a payout maybe in the future is my whole life right now needing to be anchored by this belief based on an assumption. Like, that just seems so crazy. But then having trust in myself, somebody, we're broke down on the side of a road. We're changing our tires. Somebody's like, thank God that worked out. Like, no, motherfucker, thank yourself. You just changed that tire. You were the expression of God. If God is everything in every cell, then you just saved yourself from potentially being stuck there for longer, right?
Couldn't have happened without you.
Couldn't have happened without you, right? But we're so quick to want to thank something else for the steps that we take, for the experiences that we create, that we live. And it's only because in giving someone credit, I can also blame someone else if things don't go the way that I want. And just shucking that responsibility is just not worth it as much as I want it to be.
You see, that's our relationship with government as a whole. Like, when you look at the intelligence of the body on this planet, let's just say, so this tiny part of the body, right? we keep oscillating back and forth in terms of that need for control, right? And the more we have a need for control, the more we believe in control, the more we turn to governments to save us, right? And so if we're not the government in control of our own destiny, then we're looking up to a government that, you know, reflects what we want it to reflect. And so we had Rome. That didn't work. Obviously, one global government's not going to work. So let's break that up. Now we got all our own little empires, right? And then we had feudalism and all that shit that happened in Europe, where everybody had their own little empires and they all fought against each other until they figured out, okay, we need like rules of war. We need to have like some diplomacy. We need to do all that. And they thought that was fine until all of a sudden, boom, World War I, boom, World War II. And they're like, fuck, maybe this shouldn't be a free-for-all. All right, let's start creating a fucking Rome again. And so they basically created NATO and then the UN, which is basically meant to be a giant Senate, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Star Wars references are kicking in now. Also, just Senate in general.
Right, but that's what it is now we're once again trying to to create a sense of global control.
Right.
Yeah.
And what did it do? It ostracized everybody who doesn't agree with it. Right? All the countries that don't want to abide by that are now the dark side. You know, they're terrorist states.
Right.
They're you know, they're countries that we just don't talk about. It's the axis of evil. You know, it just happens to be the countries without central banks. You know, shit like that. Like,
oh
just,
my god.
Absolutely.
Holy
like
shit.
For a long time, the countries that were like mostly targeted by the UN were countries without a Rothschild-controlled central bank. Which is fascinating. But the point being is that we keep oscillating back and forth with this fucking need for control.
Right.
Instead of going, maybe everything would work out if we all just fucking chilled out and abided by our own shit. Wouldn't that be amazing if we could do that? And what's incredible is that we have more ability to do that now.
Right.
Than we've ever had, because we have these incredible tools that we've created. We have these incredible expressions of intelligence. Don't you find it funny that despite our world politics and our economy and everything else being so divisive, our technology keeps facilitating more unity? Our technology keeps facilitating more ways to connect with one another, almost like that's what intelligence would do.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like almost like everything that's going on with control was needed in order to develop certain products or ways to connect. And it was like, because it's all tied in together. And so it's like setting a stage for a potential shift where it isn't so, you know, selfish, where it is, you know, putting others before yourself or whatever, just like not thinking about yourself so much, not trying to maintain some sense of control. It's like we're almost unknowingly creating a society that is actually like the structure of it, at least, could be utilized in an awesome way. It's just, you know, for further development, it's just almost like needing it has to be driven by this sense of trying to get more control until it's like that's all played out.
Kind of like an addiction.
Yeah.
Right? It's like the body running its course through an addiction until finally there's just so much suffering and so much conflict that it's either come to terms with this or die.
Cold turkey. Or,
you know, and in this case, like we tend to think or die, but we're just talking about the human part of this body, right? The body itself continues on. The intelligence itself continues on. Humanity is very much an experiment.
Yeah.
In the same way the dinosaurs were an experiment. It's like, I wonder how long this will last.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the same with us. Like, I wonder what the next evolution is going to be.
Right.
Are we going to have two heads?
Collectively, there's a lot of support for wings. Definitely.
Right? But yeah, you see the problem with that. Could you imagine 8 billion people being able to fly?
Not everyone. Be integration.
Like ants. Yeah. Some of them have wings, some of them don't.
Oh,
you know.
There you go.
So hey, we could be like ants.
Yeah. Like everyone's got something that like is uniquely they're really good at.
Yeah.
Like everyone gets. Well, that's what kind of what our society wants. Like everyone gets a little superpower. But if you could live, you know, more harmoniously, it's like you got the people who fly, you got the people who swim really well, you got the people who run really fast,
great
and being
jumpers.
able to utilize that in a society instead of just like, you know, making sports.
Yeah.
Like watching people do that.
Absolutely.
Because that's not like utilized necessarily in the environment in the same way. And so like, yeah, it's funny to see like even things like sports or anything like that. like as a product of, mentality as another means of distraction.
Right.
Yeah.
But,
Well, like I think it would be really interesting, and this is just my opinion, right? If you were to have, these giant stadiums, for example, that are used specifically for like major league sports.
Mm-hmm.
Why only major league sports? Like, why aren't you having junior leagues in there? Why aren't you having, community events in there? Why? Why not? Like, it's not like you wouldn't make more revenue
all
from
the
it,
time.
right?
They do concerts at some of the like Fenway Park, the baseball stadium.
Right,
They
those
do
are
concerts
usually
there.
big ticket events,
They're
though. But I
usually
mean, like,
huge names,
if the space isn't being used, right? Why wouldn't you do that? And it's because we just don't value those sports to the same degree, because people aren't betting on them, people aren't doing all that, so we just don't give them the same exposure. Look at Fidelium.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect example. Fidelium is a world-class musical act.
Yes.
People here in the region have never heard of them.
It's true.
Why? Well, because they have to pay a giant goddamn fee if they want to play anywhere notable, if they want to actually play anywhere that's going to help promote them. Well, those places are empty during the day. And sometimes there's some weeks they don't rent out the space at all. Like, why wouldn't you just go, all right, go ahead, we'll give it to you 10%. Why wouldn't you go out of the way? Because we don't value all of those things, because our mentality is divisive. We compare and contrast value all the time.
Right.
And make decisions based on that.
And make decisions based on that. Instead of me seeing you and going, you're intelligence too. Not you're intelligent too, but you're intelligence too. How can I facilitate this for my body? How can I make this easier for another one of my cells, rather than how do I get mine from this cell before it goes back?
That's right. Open up the blood vessel. You got a cell coming through.
Right? Yeah. Make way.
Make a way, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that'll change. Yeah. That can shift everything. Just being able to look at each other not as anything other than just, an extension of ourselves. But it's can be harder to do if you're trying to maintain perspectives of yourself or hold on to certain elements of control. And it can get tough. It's almost like tough to do both. Like, it is only if you're focusing on yourself or like maintaining some concept, like you're gonna have to see everything as conceptual.
But then we think about like the body. I love that we are comparing like everything, or the analogy is being used of the body, because the body, so often we think it needs better medicine, it needs better treatment, better tools. But when the body is just well fed and it has a nutritious diet, and it's low stress, and it's sleeping in a way that's compatible with its needs, it heals all illnesses and all diseases. It doesn't actually need a lot of external assistance, right? So I imagine we would kind of be in that same reflection, right? Where if we were just in a space that had food and low stress and clean water, that we would just naturally relax more. And in that, we would much more easily connect. We'd much more easily see things that are happening, and so we don't actually have to think of this ultimate tool or and have like this ultimate God be this ultimate tool that's going to cure the body of an illness. Right. And I think that's kind of how we use God, as like this ultimate solution that's going to cure the body of its sins. But there doesn't actually need to be this external intervention from this grand, ultimate, all-powerful tool to cure the body. It's just, we just naturally focus on feeding it, caring for it, and then letting it, do its own thing, and letting that intelligence express itself through us, through each other. And it just doesn't have to be like this grand equation. It just doesn't have to be so utterly complicated. It doesn't have to be this grand solution. It's just in this moment, paying attention and being able to just give yourself the simple things, and moving forward, just keep going.
Yeah. Isn't that funny? Treat yourself, the cell, as you would like the whole to treat itself, because that's what you're doing. I was saying this to somebody in the group this morning. They're like, you start to look at this, you see the world, you're like, it kind of sucks that we're lost in this shit. It kind of sucks that we're working against ourselves. And all I'm hearing is evidence of another cell changing. All I'm seeing is that world shift. And that's how simple it is. And you may not see it because you want to see it in the whole, but the whole is made up of all the parts, right? A single cell in your body changes, right? And it makes a difference. You know, that's why we're all worried about cancer. Oh my God, it's a cancer cell. Oh my God. It's like, why aren't you celebrating the ones that aren't? You got shit tons of them.
Trillions.
Well, and that's what we're going through, because there are cancer cells. I'm pretty sure everyone has cancer cells all the time, and it's just like they're birthed and then die quickly. And I think it's probably a lot of times how stressed you are that can lead to, in some way, shape, or form, them then expanding other things, you know. But it's
incredible, because you really start to understand, like, the God that you might be praying to or might have prayed to at one point is really just reflected in your willingness to be responsible as it. And that's why I love the expression, God helps those that help themselves. Because you can kind of just remove the God from that expression, like that sentence. You help those who help yourself. Wait a minute. I'm helping myself.
You help
Shit,
yourself.
it's me. You know, and that's pretty much it. And if we all took that stance, if we actually looked at this as the afterlife, wouldn't we treat it a little differently? Imagine you get to heaven, you're like, yeah, I'm here. You immediately throw some trash over your head, over your shoulder, right? Punch someone in the face, you know, like, I'm in heaven. Where's my house? Why isn't it bigger? You know, and it's like, how long do you think that heaven's going to last?
We could do some sort of video like that, some like AI generated video of someone like arriving at heaven. You know, they did all the right things, or they got a confession in before they died, and they arrive in heaven. Yeah. And immediately it's like opinion, judgment, preference. Like, if all those things are going to shift heaven, then why do we assume that they're not shifting everything right now? And that being the thing, because it puts it more in perspective of like what the reality of it would be. Because it's kind of like thinking of heaven as just this hazy thing, like a hazy feel-good thing.
I know.
Until
and then fast forward a little bit, and suddenly there's a war. Like, there's shit burning in the background. There's people running around. There's now all the clouds have turned to like the smoke of war. You know, it's like,
exactly. All stems from the
angels running by on fire.
You like the
tanks made of clouds.
Absolutely. But that's it. Like, we don't think about it that way. But what if this really is heaven? It would make us treat this differently. Yeah. And we forget that because we're like, the afterlife. It's like, what if it's just life?
Right.
What if this is what you get? This right here. Because if you think about everything you're asking for after life, it sounds really fucking boring. You're like, well, this sucks. Then stop making it suck.
Right.
That's your option. You don't like it, stop making it worse. But we've had this choice forever. The problem is, at one point, it was way harder to argue this because the part of us that was in control had no hesitation chopping off our head, had no hesitation burning us at the stake and showing other people to shut the fuck up. We're in control right now.
Yeah.
But that's run its course for so long that now we've actually made laws to stop ourselves from being too much in control. We've made laws to make sure people can't be at the top and tell us what to fucking do. Right? Yeah. We're recognizing the consequence of control, but it's an undercurrent that we're not recognizing consciously.
Yeah.
We're not aware that that's what we're learning. We keep thinking, no, we're trying to find the perfect government.
Yeah, we say that, but now we use laws as a weapon. You know, instead of you slicing someone down with a sword, you slice them down with regulations and red tape and bureaucracy and laws and regulations and having to get this. You need a permit for this. You have to pay a fine if you don't follow this rule. You have to be registered for this database. Like, it's just, you just get cut down with a different weapon. And that's the way that we're expressing our need for control right now, is through legislation. And removing access to certain things, like certain bodies of clean water, access to land, access to certain resources, that's the other way that we, try to control people, is by granting or removing someone's access to something vital.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like a pre-consequence almost, when there's this element of control, the laws kind of keep everyone in line. And so there being this, seeming consequence, with a sword or whatever, like dying for disobeying. It's like, most of us just try and obey the whole time, and that creates our experience.
Not all
so
of
it's
us.
almost like a slow, exactly. It's like a slow tension or a slow death. So you don't even notice, to the point where like someone says relax, and you like don't even know what relaxed is, because it's like there's so much tension that's been developed and you're used to holding on to, instead of just being able to see what relaxation even feels like or looks like, and that then guiding your experience, because then there isn't so much need for all the stuff for thoughts about how you're doing if you're actually experiencing heaven on earth.
Right. So relaxation, that might be heaven on earth right there. I'm in heaven.
Or maybe prayer. Maybe that's what relaxation really is. I mean, maybe we're supplementing it and going, no, I got to pray to something, when really it's just a practice of self-awareness. Maybe that's all we're doing, is allowing ourselves to feel our own intelligence, actually getting out of the way. So it's not actually a dialogue at all. It's a moment of silence.
Right. We could say pray means practicing relaxed awareness in yourself.
Yes, exactly.
Something like that.
If anybody's got a suggestion, throw that shit on Discord.
Right.
For sure. But I think there's so many things about our relationship with this concept of God that would be influenced if we could just let go of the idea of ourself being separate, because that changes it. That creates a separate God immediately. Right. And that separate God is going to reflect the things that I think I am, which is why historically those monotheistic religions always had a super uptight, insecure God. It was always like, worship me and no one else. Right. And it's just like, wow. And it's just because they're like, worship this religion and nothing else. Therefore, my God is saying that too. And it always comes back to that divisive idea of yourself. So the idea of God is never God, in the same way that the idea of you is never you. And what remains is what is. Which means that we are what is. And so when we look at the world, when we look at reality, and we're like, I wish it would change. You already are. The more you allow yourself to do so, the more you'll see exactly that. This has been a fun episode. Absolutely. I know we had some technical difficulties a few moments ago in that our video just stopped videoing. So I figured this is an excellent opportunity to end this episode, as it's been a great conversation. Today's topic was once again, the God you believe in isn't God. I don't know what our next topic's going to be, but I think we should do this more often. I'm going to really enjoy the conversation that kind of gets inspired from it. We're going to do a little bit more in terms of promotion, though, because I know a topic like this would get a lot of people talking about it if they knew this live stream was happening. I know we just kind of did it last minute, but again, maybe that's an exercise in intelligence. Right. We don't have to understand to know that we're doing it. If it's meant to be, it happened.
Right. We don't have to plan everything.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's meant to be because it happened. So it's like, and we're at the forefront of that as being what is the story, or anything to even maintain. It's like, can you allow that to be expressed? It's for you to decide.
I'm in. I can speak for me. I'm in. You're also me, but I'm not going to speak for you.
We're all here, so clearly we are all in, and so that's as far as I need to think about it.
Amen.
Amen. Well, thank you, listener, for joining us. We really appreciate you listening in on this episode where, frankly, we're just expressing your intelligence. Thank you so much for being you. We'll see you next time.